everyone. Welcome back to the show. So today we've got another episode of My Most Loved Fragrances, where we interview a special guest about their 5 most loved fragrances that have shaped their fragrance journey. It's usually someone from the fragrance world. Sometimes we've had perfumers, sometimes YouTubers. And today I'm very excited to say we kind of have both, because we have a wonderful new guest for my channel, Ashley in Paris. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your channel. It's really an honor to be here.
The honor is all mine and all ours to have you on the channel. Absolutely great to have you here. So to introduce those viewers who may not know of your channel, Ashley in Paris is a fantastic fragrance channel on YouTube. I think you've got over 7,000 subscribers, and it is a channel about all things fragrance. And we have here somebody with a real expertise in the field, which I find very impressive and enviable. So I'll get into the details later, but you are involved in the fragrance industry, and I would recommend all viewers check out Ashley in Paris if you haven't already. The link is down below. What I like about your channel is that the videos are very well founded in real knowledge and in fact proper education that you've had in perfume, and yet somehow they're also very watchable and entertaining, which is a very hard thing to have both there. Most people have a lot more of one or the other, but you seem to have both, which is a real credit to you. So I would normally ask guests where they are in the world, but that's kind of a no-brainer. So you're based in Paris, I assume, Ashley?
Yeah, so I moved to Paris 5 years ago to pursue my dream of becoming a perfumer. I had gotten into fragrances probably another 5 years before that. So this has been a hobby for me for like 15 years. I got into it really young at like 13, 14. And yeah, so basically since then I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And so I started ISIPCA and I got my Master's of Science in Scent Design and Creation there. And then immediately after that, I got hired by Givaudan, which for those of you who don't know, it's the biggest fragrance manufacturer in the world. They do the fragrances for like Prada, Chloe, Diptyque, Parfum de Marly. They're kind of everywhere. And so I was, again, really lucky to be accepted by them. And so now I'm working, creating fragrances and also learning how to create fragrances here in Paris.
Amazing. So I think I'm correct in saying in one of your videos you describe yourself as an apprentice perfumer at Givaudan. Would that be
Yes,
correct at the moment?
exactly.
Absolutely.
That's exactly my title. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so the moment you're working for them, but you're still sort of learning your trade a little bit, and so one day you could go on to be the person creating the fragrances on our department store shelves.
Yes. So actually, I would love to clear this up. So the way the
Yes.
fragrance industry works, especially with the major fragrance houses, a lot of people think that like I'm still a student, and in a way, I definitely am. But it's not something where like I leave Givaudan after like my apprenticeship. It's really interesting. So basically, we're committed to the company for several years. Right now,
Mhm.
my mentor is Khalees Becker, which is amazing. But we also work on briefs and create fragrances at the same time. So it's not just learning; we're also creating.
Okay, so forgive me, you are already involved in creating some fragrances that are reaching the market.
Small, small fragrances, generally scented spaces, things for nonprofits, for museums, for botanical gardens, things like this.
Brilliant. Absolutely amazing. I'm sure many viewers will be envious of you. Sounds like a dream job for many people, especially the people likely to be watching this video. So you say you moved to Paris about 5 years ago. So where are you from originally?
I'm from San Francisco. And that's why I've done videos with Sebastian on looking, feeling, smelling great, or the perfume guy, because I
Yes.
was working in a niche perfumery in San Francisco for like 3, 4 years before I moved to Paris.
A couple of quick questions I always ask everybody then before we get into the actual fragrances that you're going to share with us today. So at what point in life, you mentioned, you alluded to it before, at what point in life and how and why did you become unusually interested in perfumes?
Yeah, I don't know why. It is kind of an unusual interest, and I got into it very young, like 13, 14 was when I started really getting into fragrance reviews. And at the time, there were almost no YouTube reviewers. Katie Puckrick had already gotten into the game, and so this is like, yeah, way more than 10 years ago. But there was blogs like Bois de Jasmin, a now defunct blog called like Olfactorious Travels, Now Smell This. So the resources were like few and far between for niche perfumery. And even at 14, I mean, like niche stuff sounded really gross. I was like animalics and classics. I didn't want to smell like my grandma.
Yeah.
So I was really just looking up designer reviews. And I think I was really into that until like my late teens when I finally started getting into like the whole fragrance spectrum and more of the community.
Okay, brilliant. So you've been into it a long time. That's impressive. And just yeah, on that animalic thing, I loved your video about the animalic fragrance notes, which I really, very educational. You summed it up really well, and you picked a few. We share some
Oh, thank
favorites.
you.
Yeah, I thought that Jiki, of course, by Galan is amazing. I've actually got. I think I picked up the wrong bottle, but I meant to pick up Mouchoir de Mouchoir, which has a hint of the same thing. And it was nice to see that you also included a great cheapie, Bentley for Men Intense, in the list. Which is also a big favourite. So that was in your winter fragrances for men. Sorry, that was a couple of the videos that I watched today. And yeah, you mentioned Koros too. So very educational as well as an entertaining. Okay, the other little question then is on the YouTube stuff. I'm always interested in how you got into YouTube. So what made you decide to throw your hat in the ring, the frightening arena of YouTube fragrance reviewing?
Yeah, so I had been so afraid, obviously, for so long because I had been into it forever. And it's really funny. Before like the YouTube videos started coming out, there were a lot of fragrance blogs. Like that first exploded, and now, of
Yeah.
course, videos are exploding. And I remember at that point, I was thinking about starting a written blog, and someone commented like, "Oh, there's too many fragrance blogs." And mind you, this was 10 years ago. I saw this comment, and I was like, oh well, like because I was a teenager, so I was like very self-conscious and very impressionable, and I was like, well, no one wants to hear me. Why would anyone want to hear what I have to think about fragrance, right? There was already all these people. And so I think with time and of course like getting and seeing so many people that weren't experts, that I love their fragrance reviews, that I thought were doing incredible jobs at it throughout the years. And so finally, once I got to this point, once, and I was like, okay, I literally have my master's in perfumery. I think I have the credentials to maybe have a different perspective, because then, of course, videos, there's a lot of YouTubers, and I think that's great. I love hearing all the different perspectives. But at that point, I was like, okay, there's still not someone in the industry, as far as I know. I know Jus de Rose is classically trained as well, but actively working as a perfumer with a YouTube channel. So I was like, okay, I have my niche, I can make my videos. And then I started, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't have the time. I'd say like I just launched my channel like very beginning of 2021. And I didn't really film so much because I was always working. And then the past couple of months, when I was like, okay, I'm actually really enjoying this, and I started posting a lot more.
Brilliant, yeah, and I'm glad that you did. I'm sure viewers will be too. So, where does this sort of fit in your priorities then? The YouTube versus the perfume career. I would assume the perfume career not on YouTube is slightly a priority, but do you think that could change if YouTube takes off?
No, I love being a perfumer. I absolutely love creating. I love making content as well. I hope I can do both for as long as they let me. I think one of the reasons why there might not be YouTube perfumers, it can be kind of a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
But since, again, the stuff that I'm creating right now isn't stuff that it's not anything for a major designer or even a major niche brand. Like it's,
Mm.
again, more scenting spaces or historical fragrance, again, things in that nature. So right now it's not a conflict of interest because I don't need, my fragrance to succeed, because my fragrance isn't out there yet. And
Yeah.
all the reviews that I do are always positive. If there's a fragrance that I don't like, I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
I only talk about things that I love. So yeah.
Yeah, I see your point though. Yeah, if you got much more prominent as a perfumer, it could be difficult. And I actually envy you because you've got the perfume career as a main thing. I guess it probably takes the pressure off yourself with the YouTube videos, that you don't have to think, oh my God, I've got to get so many views for these, or I better chase the clicks or whatever. So I respect you for that, because the videos, yeah, whilst being very watchable, you're not every video is a top 10 compliment getters like some YouTubers have to do, understandably, because
Yeah,
that's the way it is. So you got 5 fragrances that have shaped your
yeah.
perfume journey. What are you going to throw at us first then?
Okay, so let's start with one of my first ever niche, well, not niche, just like a fragrance that I researched and love, and that is Lalique Encre Noir. It's the first men's fragrance I ever wore for myself. I was 17 or 18 when I discovered this fragrance. I was in Mexico on a family vacation, and even though I lived in San Francisco, I think even at this age, like Tiger Lily Perfumery, which is one of the only niche perfumeries in San Francisco, hadn't even opened. So it was kind of hard to get access to like a lot of the fragrances that I was reading. And for whatever reason, this random mall in Mexico had the Lique Encre Noir. I sprayed it on and I was like, this is not my thing. And for whatever reason, like later that day, something about the 80 degree, which is like what, 30 something degrees Celsius
That's hot.
weather
Yeah.
really made it bloom, and it smelled so beautiful. And I was like, wow, like I can hate a fragrance and then later love it. And so that was kind of like a really fun realization for me as well, like in the beginning of my fragrance journey, to go from like a hate to a love, to go from like, I was definitely someone, I mean, like before this, my signature scent was Paris Hilton by Paris Hilton. So it was really a huge jump for me in terms of like going from a really like fruity, girly fragrance to something that's like really dark and woody, bordering on masculine. And even if, you know, I used to love reading about fragrances, I think this is really the fragrance that launched it for me. That was like, okay, like this can get even more interesting. I don't just have to research feminines or yeah. So the Lique Encre Noir.
Okay, great. Yeah, great start. A really easily gettable fragrance that doesn't cost the earth. I think it's kind of vetiver. Some people talk about pencil shaving kind of smell with that one. So yeah, it's more artistic, I guess, certainly than a Paris Hilton fragrance. Not that there's anything wrong with those either. So really interesting first choice. Okay, brilliant. What is number 2, please?
So number 2, I have Anja Dance, which is a very like green mango fragrance. I discovered this one probably shortly after. Mango notes I think are kind of hard to come by. I love mango in general as a note. And here I found, you know, I think even still, you read notes list a lot of the time and you have no idea what the fragrance is actually going to smell like. You know, it's kind of a
Yeah.
blur. And here, it was like the first photorealistic scent. Like I think it had like mentions of green notes, aquatic notes, and then the mango. And that's exactly what I smelled here. I think what the whole storytelling behind this is like you're supposed to be floating on a boat down the Nile, and there's fruits, and you know, there's supposed to be in ambiance. And I really felt that. I felt transported by this fragrance. I could see, I mean, I don't know what Jean-Claude Elena saw when he saw this, but I kind of felt like it was very visual for me, my experience with this fragrance, like a photorealistic mango. And I love that. And it was the first time I experienced that with a fragrance. So it was really special.
Okay, brilliant choice. Yeah, I mean, Hermes have some just amazing releases, and of course, Jean-Claude Elena is a true master. So a great selection, and you know what a lovely just the name, a garden. Is it on the Nile or by the Nile? I mean, it's a beautiful picture. So I get it, and I really like some of those ones and that's that line from Hermes, those fresh ones, absolute stunners. All right, that's 2 absolute beauties. Let's go for number 3 next, please.
Okay. So this is Cherry Punk, and I just chose this one because I have been obsessing over it lately. And I think something when you work in fragrance, I mean, I smell all day, every day. We weekly get new fragrances to smell. They bring them in, which is really a pleasure because a lot when they give them to us, they're not in bottles. They're just in like, you know, little homogeneous sample bottles, and so we can smell things, and you're used to smelling things blind, but it's very rare that you smell something and you're just like and actually what it's taught me is sometimes a lot of the is knowing the story and seeing the bottle and having all of that, because it's actually really rare that I smell something that like makes my heart sing. And it had been until I discovered this fragrance. So I smelled this maybe 2 months ago for the first time, and it was one of the only times all year that I had like that moment, you know, that like, oh, this is beautiful, like this is special, this is
Can I
yummy.
just
And so
can I just get the name of that one again? Because I didn't. It's not familiar.
Yeah, Cherry
Sorry,
Punk. It's by Room 1015,
Room
and it's a
1015,
cherry leather fragrance. Yeah.
Cherry Punk. Okay, brilliant. And I love the bottle.
No, yeah, the bottle is absolutely beautiful as well. And yeah, it really made my heart sing. It's super simple. It's a cherry accord on leather, but they're both super well done. The cherry is not too sweet and cloying, it's just kind of the right amount of sweet and juicy. And the leather makes it so sexy and so unisex. My boyfriend also wears this fragrance and it smells so good. And funny enough, so different on him. I get a lot of the cherry and he gets a lot of the leather.
Brilliant. Okay, that is it's what I like about when I do these videos is often with obviously with my channel I've got quite a big collection, but it's a lot of the same stuff my viewers have to hear me going on about. So we get new stuff that we've not heard of, and everything you've shown there, I don't own them. So I think that viewers are getting some new stuff. Also, just as you said that, I wonder as you're employed in the industry, you're smelling all day. It must be quite hard to avoid getting a little bit blasé about I mean, it must be quite rare for something to actually excite you because you've got access to everything, you've smelled everything. Is that a danger that because it's your job, you become a bit, oh, it's just like work, or do you still feel inspired regularly by smells?
I mean, I guess compared to other people in the industry, I'm still new. I mean, then again, I feel like when I started as a sales associate, that was literally 10 years ago now, and I've never ever been bored. Like it hasn't happened yet. I've heard of this happening to people, but at least for me, like I really love my job. Like it's still so exciting. And yes, sometimes I smell things from the market and it's like it's not suiting me. I think I've gotten a bit pickier. I like more things. I like more things now, but it's rare that I love something now. But it's
Yeah.
still pleasant. I still smell something and I'm like, "Oh, this is still a really nice fragrance."
Glad to hear that you're not jaded. I do find that a struggle because I've been into this hobby not as an expert. I'm just an enthusiastic buyer and enjoyer. But yet it is a struggle for me. And there are times when I think, oh, whatever. I don't know what fragrance I love today. But something always does come along that re-excites me. But I find it difficult to recapture those first months when I discovered the world of fragrance as a bit more than what was in my local department store, and that first burst of excitement is really hard to recapture, but I'm glad you've definitely held on to yours. That's really good. Is there any one particular style of fragrance or genre that is perhaps your particular favorite, or are you just very open-minded?
I love gourmands, and I've loved gourmands, like, since the beginning, and it's still probably my favorite fragrance category, which is funny. I think it's, like, the least refined. I think the correct answer for perfume would be, like, green or spicy or something more
Yes.
complex, like chypres.
Yeah, good
But I
good good
love
for
gourmands.
you. Hey, it's good that you're
Yeah.
honest. I think you're right. It does. They get a slightly bad rap, as it just something about it sounds a bit, I don't know, basic. I don't know why,
Yeah,
but it's
like,
it's a facet.
adolescent, like, I should have grown out of it, but
Yeah. No, we listen. Gourmands. I'm known for liking old school fragrances and fougères and stuff, but I do have this guilty pleasure. I do sort of like things like Mucalat by Montal when no one's looking, and things that just smell
oh,
of.
me too. I love mhm.
Yeah, I like these really like ridiculously sweet puddingy things just now and again when no one's smelling me. So I get it. Okay, brilliant. I think you've given us three. What is up next, please?
Well, since we're talking about gourmands, okay, I don't have the bottle of this one anymore because I wore it to death. So I absolutely misspoke with Lily Goncourt. I think that was like my first serious niche fragrance. But my first favorite, not at all serious niche fragrance is Chocolate Greedy by Montal. And so I think I got this fragrance probably just before I got the Lily Goncourt Noir, so probably the same age. And it was like love. It was immediate love, the gooey chocolate chip cookies fresh out the oven vibe that it gives. And I wore that fragrance to the point where I can't smell it anymore just because
Right.
like I wore it out. Like I must have worn that fragrance every day at least a solid year, which for a perfume lover is something, you know? And
Yeah.
so I don't own a bottle of it anymore just because I know I couldn't go through it. But yeah, it was really, really special to me, that bottle.
Love it. Okay, and I'm assuming this is a pretty dumb question, but to describe the smell of that one, is it literally just very chocolatey?
Yeah, it's a very singular fragrance. It just
Okay,
smells like hot chocolate chips.
love it.
And I think that's why eventually, like, I tired of it because it's very linear, but
Yeah.
they did this thing and they did it very well. It's just chocolate chip from start to finish. So if that's something you want, that's the fragrance.
Hey, I like it. Yeah, I got to hand it to Montel. I like some of their stuff, like Intense Cafe and some of these gourmandy ones. They do it really
Mhm.
well. They may not be, I suppose, for some aficionados, they may not have the nuance they want. But hey, if it smells good, it doesn't need to develop all the time on
Yeah,
skin, I say. So yeah, good. Okay, great, cool.
exactly.
Yeah, well, we've done four. So we're on to number. I'll get a little bit of other
Mhm.
stuff off you too, because I like to pick my guest brains. But let's go for your last pick then, please.
Okay. So I have Oud Satin Mood, which I think is just one of the sexiest fragrances of all time. I mean, I don't know if any fragrance gives me confidence like this fragrance. It's so, so beautiful. And the reason that it's special to me is the first time I had smelled it in the past, but I recently smelled it again a couple months ago when me and my boyfriend went to the Maison Francis Kirk de Jean store here in Paris. And something really sweet that he actually surprised me with is a custom version of it. So we got to meet with Francis Kirkjean and actually customize Oud Satin Mood together. And he is one of the perfumers that I admire the most in the world. And he was so kind and generous with his time. He spent like 2 hours talking to me, answering like all my questions about the fragrance industry and giving me advice as
Wow.
an up and coming perfumer. And oh my God, it was such a special experience. And getting just to tweak one of my favorite fragrances, like just and to customize it to me was so special. And just the fact that it was like a gift from someone I love, just made it even sweeter.
That sounds pretty amazing. Yeah, what a thrill! What an amazing perfumer. I mean, he started really young, didn't he, with Lamal when it came out in the 90s, and
Yeah.
still going
And
strong
he was
with
26 years old. Or I think even younger, possibly 24. I mean, he was in his mid 20s, which is so rare. I mean, he's the
yeah,
youngest perfumer that I know of to have had a hit that massive
yeah,
so young. I mean,
incredible.
really a talent.
You've got to hand
Yeah.
it to him, and yeah, and he's still going strong. And that must have been an incredible experience for you. Sounds like you have a pretty dreamy life out there. I guess maybe it's not as glamorous as I'm sure that you're working hard too, but I'm pretty envious of you out there in Paris. Well, you've given us five amazing selections, very classy selections. As I've said, I might try and get you back on to do men's fragrances specifically. Although I think
Let's
pretty
do
much
it.
all of these can be worn by anyone, as anything can. Just get a little bit of information about you, then more general stuff about you as a person is always fun. Any other big hobbies outside of fragrances? What else are you into in life?
Oof. People do ask this, right? And people ask, like, what's your hobby? And it's super weird to have work as your hobby. And
Okay.
if anything, like I just doubled down, like I was going to work every day and I'm like, I'm not talking about perfume enough. Let me start a YouTube channel and talk about perfume more. But
Okay.
that's kind of what happened. I also like to cook a lot. It's a new hobby. It developed during the pandemic.
Okay.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I realized that I really like to cook as well. And that's pretty much it.
Fine. Nothing wrong with that. As they always say, if you can do what you love for a living, then you never work a day in your life. And it sounds like you're doing that. So
It's true.
we like it.
Yes.
Actually, my next question, I ask some rather trivial questions. Favorite food?
Ooh, okay. So my answer used to be Chinese food, but I can find Chinese food in Paris, pretty good Chinese food. Now it's Mexican food. So I'm Latin American, I'm Mexican, Cuban, and Puerto Rican, and I cannot find like Mexican or any Latin American food out here. It is such a struggle to find a good taco. The UK has some good Latin food. I've had some good Peruvian, I've had not bad tacos, but Paris, it's lacking.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess that perhaps in Paris there is an element of a culture of wanting to preserve their great French cuisine. So maybe that's why some of
Yeah,
the
and
other
Italy.
world cuisines are not so prevalent there. So that's an interesting
Right.
phenomenon. Okay, favorite alcoholic beverage, if you do drink at all?
I don't drink.
Okay,
I used to. It's not a thing where I was sober and now I'm not. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's
no,
just I got older and I got boring, so I don't
okay,
drink.
fair enough. Well, that's a straight answer to a straight question. Do you watch a lot of YouTube fragrance videos or not?
Ooh. I think okay, so I definitely used to early on in the
Hmm.
game. I'd say even before perfumery school. And
Yeah,
then I realized like I am someone that like people's tastes and influences. Like if someone that I really respect and admire says that they hate my fragrance that I'm wearing, I know that not everyone can love everything. And in my head, I've made that, I know this, but it still kind of hurts. I'm like, oh, but I love it. So I think that's why I watch less YouTube videos now, just because I want to have my own opinions on my fragrances.
understandable. Yeah, I think once you start making them a lot, then it's not always the thing that you want to spend all of your spare time doing, watching other people's ones too. So
That's it. Yeah.
I get it. Last question on that one. In as far as you probably are aware of what goes on and who's big and stuff, what do you make of the sort of explosion of the channels that we've had in the last 3 or 4 years, and the sort of now it's we got much more, it's much more common to have channels with over 100,000 subscribers and really going straight. Obviously, Jeremy Fragrance, and there's some really big female reviewers now. Do you have any particular view on that? Do you think it's a good thing, or are they dumbing it down, or what do you think?
No, I think it's amazing. I think anyone who wants to start a YouTube channel and share their passion, that's their prerogative. And I hate when people are like, oh, like another YouTube channel, whatever. Because again, that's what stopped me from creating a YouTube like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think there's room for everyone's voice. And sometimes you just have to do it for yourself. If this is something that you want to do, just do it. If that's how someone wants to spend their time, why not? Like, there's no right or wrong opinion on a fragrance. Like, and I feel like now I can say that, there's no real bad fragrance. If someone loves it, they love it, and that's it.
I'm with you all the way on that one. Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, I make a lot of videos sometimes where I sort of make slight satire of the YouTube fragrance thing. I'm a bit more deep in the YouTube thing as my main thing in life than you are. But when
Mhm.
it comes down to it, I always say that, hey, you know what? I actually really love Jeremy Fragrance, and I like that there are channels that are really big, and I think it's just basically all good, and I enjoy it. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't understand people getting upset about certain channels that they don't like and
You
stuff.
don't have
But
to
hey,
watch. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to
I
watch.
know this is the madness of the YouTube world. But I'm hoping you will stay sane. I'll finish on one last note. I think if there was any justice in the world, I got to be honest, you would have one of the hugest channels
Mhm.
because you've got the combination of the glamour, the expertise, and a very very great presentational style. But I let's see where you go. But I reckon
That's so
great
kind of
things are
you.
ahead for you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on the show. Absolute pleasure to have you here, guys. Let us know what
No,
you think
my
about that.
pleasure.
Guys, let us know in the comments down below what you thought of that. Ashley in Paris, please do follow the link in the description. Subscribe if you haven't done already. I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully, I'll be able to entice her to come back on the channel again sometime soon. We will see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.